Thank you and good morning. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we're meeting on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and welcome any other Indigenous Australians we have with us today. In fact, welcome everyone. Thank you for your lovely words, Eileen. I'm not surprised that UNSW has got a FIAP. They've had FIAP-like initiatives since I was here about 1 million years ago, where they had really terrific mentoring programs to encourage Indigenous students into the law school, make sure they got through. So I think you've got a long history of FIAP initiatives. You just weren't properly tagged at that stage. So it's 15 months since the launch of the original Trailblazers Financial Inclusion Action Plans back in November 2016, and it's my great pleasure today to launch the first program report entitled From Foundations to Actions. Now, the report showcases the progress of the first 12 Trailblazers organisations, and as you'll see, some really important work has taken place over the last 12 months, and I think we're already starting to see results. So I want to congratulate those first 12 progressive organisations, as well as to acknowledge the tremendous hard work done by the Good Shepherd Secretariat, led by the tireless Vanita. I don't know where she is, but you'll all know Vanita. As well as the main partners, EY, the Centre for Social Impact, and the Federal Department of Social Services. The report also foreshadows the plans of the next 18 FIAP organisations, and it really goes through the theory of change that underlies FIAPs. And it's only if we manage to go through all of those stages that we really will see a major impact on society. So I think we're at the beginning of what I hope will be a very important journey. As terrific as the work to date has been, I think it's fair to say, though, that the need for financial inclusion action plans remains as strong today as it was back in 2016 and before. It's really quite shocking to realise that in a country as wealthy as Australia, despite multiple efforts by many parties, so many people are doing it hard, with women, Indigenous Australians, those from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, especially new humanitarian arrivals, people on low incomes, people on with disabilities, all well and truly overrepresented amongst this cohort. Financial stress affects wide segments of society. You only need to look at the concern expressed daily about energy prices, petrol prices, to realise these things are hurting people. Women are still earning less than men, 17.3% I think is the figure we're using right now, and we still only have about half the superannuation of men. As the 2018 Closing the Gap report reveals, while there have been some really pleasing bits of progress, including more Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander kids staying in school to year 12 and many more kids enrolled in early childhood education, more still needs to be done. The target to halve the gap in employment by 2018 is not on track, nor is the target to halve the gap in reading and numeracy by year 12. There's more to be done. CAL communities continue to face multiple disadvantages, not the least of which is just navigating the financial services, energy, telco services landscape, working out how to get a contract, how to avoid being ripped off. And look, I could go on, but I think the point I want to make here is that behind every one of those statistics and sort of bland headline statements, there are real people with real hopes, real dreams. And I think the hope of all of us in this room is that through FIAPs we can help people realise those dreams, live a life with dignity and live a good life. Now, we all know that the solutions to these long-term and entrenched problems won't happen overnight. Change can and usually does take decades. Today's report, however, sets out a roadmap for change towards a fairer and more resilient and financially inclusive society. It also highlights the realisation that responsibility for fixing the inequalities within our society isn't just the job of government, though, Minister, a big part of it is the job of government. I'm not letting everyone off altogether. But these days I think we recognise that if we are to be truly financially inclusive country, where everyone has resilience, resources, opportunities and skills to lead an economically and socially fulfilling life, then all sectors have a role to play, be they the private sector, the not-for-profit sector, the education sector or government. Now, financial inclusion action plans are designed to provide a framework to help participants from all sectors contribute to finding and delivering solutions. They've been developed using co-design principles and are constantly evolving, and one of the things I really like about them is their try, test and learn philosophy. Some things will fail, that's all right. Some things will succeed. The important thing is to measure and know what is and isn't working, and to have that constant input from the people who are trialling it, your clients, your customers, your staff, people on the advisory group. There's a lot of people willing these to work and be a huge success. FIAPs are still in their infancy, but it's worth pausing to consider what's been achieved so far as we come towards the end of phase 1, the establish and engage phase as it's called. The FIAPs are the original 12 trailblazers, and those announced today of the next very welcome 18 participants have tended to focus on 4 key areas. They've focused on improving access to financial products and services, including creating new products and services that better meet the needs of clients. They've supported on focusing customers in times of need, also on improving the capacity, attitude and behaviours of staff to identify and support financially excluded and vulnerable groups. And they've focused on building financial knowledge, skills and capabilities of vulnerable groups. Now, initiatives in all these areas are essential if we're to get the right culture and attitudes embedded in organisations and build the financial capability we want in our community. And they're just the sort of initiatives we hope to get in this early establish and engage phase of the FIAPs. There are some really terrific ones. I have to mention some, and I'm sorry I can't mention them all or I'll be here for an eternity. But some of the ones I love is the collaboration between NAB and Good Shepherd with their online cash loans that have half the interest of payday loans, and anything we can do to keep people out of the hands of payday lenders is a good thing. The financial relief programs that we're seeing in the energy and the financial services sector. Organisations paying superannuation on parental leave, on unpaid parental leave, which is particularly important for women if we're ever going to get those super balances up. Multiple financial capability programs, some really terrific ones. ICANN's Indigenous Yarning Money, Bank Australia's workshop with the big issue money vendors. There's just some really great work out there in that area. Really good research, wise research on teachable moments for women affected by family violence, I think is something that's really important and worth everyone having a look at. And putting money where their mouth is. Some really good money and support going from the Queensland Government, from the Commonwealth Bank towards financial counsellors who really are the front line of helping people who are doing it hard. I could go on, but given the time I won't. But if I didn't mention yours, I would just encourage everyone to read the reports because there's lots of inspiring things in there, and if you've got a FIAP, lots of good ideas to pinch. But as you could probably infer from the sort of list I've just run through, the whole FIAP methodology really has 4 categories of programs they're hoping to see. Some relating to products and services, some relating to capabilities, attitudes and behaviours, a third relating to awareness and understanding of culture and diversity, and the 4th, which I really want to focus on now, economic participation and status. The majority of the actions we've seen to date have fallen into the first 3 categories. And in these early stages, but up until now, there's really been less focus on actions that go to economic participation, though there have, of course, been some. There's been some great targets set by employers to employ X number of people from traditionally underrepresented groups. Targets set to get more women into senior management, some really good work done by Swinburne University to identify and then help financially challenged students and getting people in and keeping them to the end of their degree, which is one of those pathways to a much better life. And I'm hopeful as we move from the end of stage 1 and into stage 2, which will have a much bigger focus on metrics and measurement, that there will be a bigger focus on training and employment opportunities and other initiatives that really boost economic participation. And I say this because I think we have a lot of focus on financial capability, and that is incredibly important. But it's also important to remember that not all of those experiencing financial stress or financial inclusion are lacking in financial capability. In fact, many of them have got much better capability and literacy skills than the rest of us here because they have to. They have to have those skills to survive. What they're missing is the economic opportunities, such as those offered by suitable training programs, employment programs. So that my hope is that in the next phase of FIAPs, we'll see many more initiatives designed to boost economic participation. Initiatives that set clear employment targets for groups that are currently underemployed, and programs that promote the advancement of women and other underrepresented in senior positions. And I heard a great phrase the other day. There were a group of CALD women, the place where I work, wanting to get together a group and really get more CALD people full stop into senior positions in the organisation. And they said to me, if I can't see it, I can't be it. And it really reminded me of the absolute importance of having visible role models out there to say, yes, anyone can achieve this, you just got to go about it the right way. I'm also hopeful that we will see more sectors taking up FIAPs, because whilst we've got great representation from the major banking and energy providers, not-for-profits, and now with New South Wales Uni coming on board, we're starting to get some really good representation in the education sector. Sectors such as retail, healthcare, construction, agriculture, manufacturing, technology and telecommunications are well and truly underrepresented. I should really say not represented at all. And I'm going to pick on the telcos for a moment, because I really would like to see them take up the FIAP challenge. One of the early focuses of many of the programs, particularly financial services and energy sector, has been getting the settings right on their hardship policies. And it was really pleasing. Last week, Financial Counselling Financial Counselling Australia brought out their annual report. It's called Rank the Banks, but it's in fact ranking a whole lot of different agencies. And it was great to see real improvements. And this is where the financial counsellors who are at the front line and who see where people's problems are, they do the assessment of each of the banks, each of the energy providers, and so on, debt collectors and telcos. Huge improvements in the way the banks were doing things. They rated really well. Big improvements on the energy sector. Debt collection sector, you won't be surprised, has a long way to go. Telcos, however, were down the bottom. And when you think about the percentage of the budget that these days goes towards telcos, costs and related packagings and bundling, I think it's really important that they're part of this space. And that also goes to one of the other advantages of FIAPs, which is really the teamwork. There's a great community of practice that the Good Shepherd's put in place. And I think that working through FIAPs will give the telcos and others a real chance to learn from the financial services providers, from the energy providers, what's worked, what hasn't, and really give them a leap up in terms of getting that right. Good Shepherd is also exploring a number of other really interesting directions for FIAPs that I'll mention just quickly. They're looking at place-based FIAPs and starting a pilot of that in Geelong, which I hope is going to be really successful. And they're also looking at topic-based FIAPs, and there's been some great work done by a number of FIAP organisations in the advisory group trying to come up with really a model for an ethical funeral insurance product for Indigenous consumers. And that's been one of the great areas of rip-offs. Unsolvable problems, certainly in my 30 years in consumer protection financial services. And through the co-design principles, I think they're getting somewhere. So I'm about to finish, so you can all eat breakfast. I'd like to take the opportunity first and foremost to really thank all of the 30 FIAP organisations represented here today. We know you've invested considerable resources preparing your FIAPs and investing in genuine actions that will make a real difference in your own sphere of influence. I should also mention the work done by the Centre for Social Impact and Ernst & Young is really going to help us with quality assurance and measurement of the impact of those actions. And that measurement is absolutely essential if we're going to scale up and pick the winners to really follow up. Being able to show that difference, I hope, will help us scale up the number of FIAP participants so that the positive impacts can be realised economy-wide. But I want to finish with a saying, and it's one that I truly believe. And it's that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And I think we can all contribute to making Australia a fairer society, both at an individual level and at an institutional level. I listened to a really inspiring talk by Fiona Guthrie, who runs financial counselling, last week, and she was talking about the importance of practising kindness and empathy, to which I'd add at the individual level, doing what we can to help others and creating meaningful change. But at an institutional level, where there is scope to scale action and have a truly transformative impact, and that's what I really hope we're seeing the beginning of, a transformative impact. So thank you very much.